row kettlebell swing burpee.
Oh, I don't want to remember
Just
that
because it'll make
one.
more sense when we get to the cyclical.
True, as to why
Yeah.
we did what we did on
Yeah.
the cyclical one.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. So, row kettlebell swing burpee, quick recap for those that haven't watched part one. If you haven't, go back to part one. But 3 sets, 250-meter row, 15 kettlebell swings, 25 burpees, 15 kettlebell swings, 250-meter row, rest 12 minutes, 3 times through.
Yep, 70-53 for the weight and American kettlebell.
Yeah.
Why are they called American
I
kettlebell
don't
swings?
understand it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, maybe let's save that for a different conversation.
Yeah.
But they're American kettlebell swings, so that means all the way overhead. It's probably because it's kind of it's not a very smart movement.
It's so stupid.
It's kind of dumb. So the Russians were like, "Oh, those are fucking American kettlebell swings.
you
Those are
guys-
not Russian
You
kettlebell
can have
swings."
them. You guys have them. No, it's like, yeah, you kind of hit the point where the power's dropped. You're just going to pull it over your head some more because you can.
Yep.
'Cause why not?
I am pro-America, guys. Sorry. I don't want someone to get offended by the thought.
No.
He hates America.
Just not American kettlebell swings, especially in the context of the lactic repeat test.
Yeah.
So we rolled into OPEX HQ last Thursday to do that one together. Bit of moral support, make sure we, have each other's backs, cheer each other on, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
I think you went first, Carl. You, you stepped up to the plate and said, "I'm going to go for it." So talk us through your times.
Yeah, my times were as expected. I think I actually nailed these. I think I said like upper 3s. I'd dip into the 4s. So I went 345, 359, 415. So very similar to Trevor's actually.
Yeah.
I just beat him. But yeah, very similar to Trevor's.
How much of a percentage drop off is that between them? Do you know what like, the rough math is in your
Yeah,
head?
it was, gosh, I want to say 5 to 6%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of where you want it to be, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolute scores weren't great though, right? So, anytime we look at degradation, we have to look at what the output was. So I wouldn't look at those scores and be like perfect, right? Because I'd be like, if I cared to like do really well on that test, I'd be like, okay, I don't even care what the degradation is because I have to get my absolute scores lower. So I would just focus on getting my absolute scores lower. The first set is like 320 to 330, then I'm starting to think about what is my degradation. But if I'm going 6 minutes, 6:30, 7 minutes, I'm not going to like high five myself because it's a 5% drop off because absolute scores are so high.
Sure. Well, I first round was 440. I got it under 5 minutes. Wasn't sure if I was going to or not, but I did. It really hurt. Those 12 minutes of rest like just flew by. Round 2 was an absolute shit show. So yeah.
Emma's behind the camera with her hands over her face right now. You
I
guys can't
know.
see that, but Emma was in the gym and she couldn't look. She's like, "What are you guys doing
Poor
to yourselves?"
Emma. Emma's like our mom, so like concerned that we're gonna hurt ourselves with our stupid, risky behavior.
Emma's like, "This is not your ideal version of fitness."
No, and it wasn't. It wasn't, guys. The second set of kettlebell swings, I think I got 14 reps.
It was
And
14.
I was like, shit, I got to do one more. I put the kettlebell down. I don't know why. I should have just done the damn thing, but it was really heavy
Guys,
in
by
that
put
moment.
the kettlebell down, she means she literally floated it from overhead, and there's a massive hole in the ground that goes down like 16 meters.
There is not.
Because she floated the kettlebell.
No damage was caused to the floor. I watched back the video because I felt really bad, and I did bring it down like below my shoulders before I dropped
okay.
it. Still
Well,
a long way to drop
It
the
sounded
kettlebell.
like she threw it to a wall ball target and just let it fall.
But that was on 15. That was my last rep. I don't know why I stopped, but I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Had to pick the kettlebell up, but like psyched myself out. Like that kettlebell felt like it was 300 pounds in that moment.
A 1 rep max kettlebell.
That's
swing.
how it felt. It really did, Carl. And you're like, I remember you yelling, like, use your hips, like, hinge at the hips, because it was all quads, but I just couldn't make myself. Like, my body did not want to bend over. It was like, nope, you're not doing that. I got my 15th after like psyching myself out for like 15 seconds or so. But that second effort was 5:33, I think. So a huge drop off from set 1 to set 2. That's like 53 seconds slower. I don't know what percentage it is, but way more than 5 to 6%.
Yeah, it's like that was in the critical drop off realm.
It definitely
Yeah.
was.
Yep.
Went to do my third set, like on the rower, 10 seconds before I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to do this thing. I'm going to have to fraction my kettlebell swing so I don't leave a hole in the floor. And Carl was like, you don't have to do it. You can stop. And I thought you were just riling me up and trying to get a reaction from me.
No, I wasn't.
But I didn't do it. I did not finish that one, left the third set out. The only thing I would have gotten out of doing that third set was suffering and saying that I finished it. It's obvious that I cannot use lactate and buffer it from my system from that drop off from 1 to 2, and set number 3 wouldn't have told us anything differently, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good learning opportunity though, right? It's like if you're coaching someone on the floor out there and you saw that, what would you do?
Absolutely tell them to stop.
You would say stop, right? So yeah, I mean, when you start to see, like when we have a test, let's use this test because we're talking about it, but we have this lactic repeat test, and the intention of this test is to go as hard as possible and to get the best time possible every single set. Once you see someone is not capable of going hard anymore, right? And hard is relative, right? But once you see that they have to fraction things, put it down, and they're really suffering to a point where they can hurt themselves, you got to just wrap it up. Like, just stop. You're not going to get anything from that. It's like, what would your third set have been? Probably 6 minutes, right? It's like, what would that have told us? We would have had this conversation. You'd be like, I just didn't have it in me, so I just had to finish. That was the only thing that was in my head. I just have to finish it, fraction it. And it's like, okay, so we didn't really test what we intended on testing, but you had to finish it because it was on the board, right? It's like that would just be a stupid thing to do. So I think we have to look at that and be okay with pivoting what the plan was with ourselves and our clients. It's like, just because it's written down doesn't mean that we have to do it. You know what I mean? Like, if you see critical drop off, stop, because nothing good is going to come from that. You already assessed what you needed to assess, weren't able to recover and do it again. There's no reason to do it for another set or two.
Yeah, and I think it really speaks to the value of having a coach in that moment. Like, you're not my coach, Carl, but you are a coach, and you're a coach that I respect a lot. If I were in that gym by myself, I probably would have just done it really slowly, gotten nothing out of it, just to say, I did it, even though I know better, right? We know better as coaches. We still do stupid things sometimes. But having you there to say, it's okay, you don't have to do it. You're not going to get anything from doing it. Stop.
Yeah.
I was like, fine, I'll stop,
Yeah, it was like a 10-second conversation that like did this real quick. It was like, you don't have to do it. And you're like, oh, no, I'm good. It's like, Georgia, don't do it. You're not doing it. It's not happening. So it happened like, it was 10 seconds, but it escalated very quickly. I thought me saying you didn't have to do it, you would just like be like, okay, cool, like, good idea, let me step off. But she was strapping in still. She's like, oh, no. I'm gonna just like, hey, Georgia, like, you're not doing it. Stop doing this.
No, well, that's because when someone challenges me to do something, that's when I want to do it. Like, that's how I respond. So
wasn't a challenge.
I've got that now. I definitely got that now, but that will always be my first reaction in those moments.
Gosh, that thing was, that was icky.
It was so icky.
Yeah.
Why did we do that?
Yeah, like, I finished and it hurt, right? Like, if I were to say what was my effort level, I would put it at 95%. I didn't go 100%. And it's not because I, intentionally wanted to sandbag, or like, I just didn't want to, right? Like, I didn't have, not that I didn't want to, I couldn't, right? I just couldn't go 100% because I didn't want to enough, I think, right? So, once you start getting into that realm of like any type of strategy happening, you're not attacking the test properly, right? Like, when I first started rowing, I was at like 132, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold 132 instead of saying like, let me push the limits a little bit, get this thing sub 130, and then kind of catch my bearings as I transition from this to the kettlebell swings, got to the kettlebell, went as fast as I could. I didn't fraction, couldn't have gone any faster on those. Got to the burpees. My first set, my burpee tempo was, let's call it at 90%. Then finished at the same, like 132 on the rower. Second set, like, everything just started getting a little bit slower, right? I was like at 135 now on the rower. Kettlebell swing was the same cadence, burpee went from 90% to 85%, and I saw that in time. That's where I lost time, really, was the burpee, as well as the 6 seconds on the rower overall. And then the third set, I didn't attack it like, okay, this is the last set. I have to go 100%. I attacked it like, I'm just going to hang. I'm going to survive this, right? Like, I'm not going to be on the floor for an hour after this thing. So I didn't attack it at 100%. And the reason being is because it wasn't like worth it to me. You know what I mean? Because I know how that feels. And I think my body automatically, or my mind automatically, was like, you're not going to push it to this point. And even going at that 95%, like that, it was tough. Like it hurt. Like I didn't sandbag it, but it hurt. And immediately realized, like, why the fuck did I ever do this to myself? Like really, like I had those thoughts. Even that day I had those thoughts. I was like, it's not worth it, right? It's not worth it. I get it. Like when I used to compete and I used to do it to win, right? Like it made sense to me. But now where it's like, yeah, that's just like fitness is so far away from that for me right now. To get put in that scenario and to do that reaffirms like what I need to be doing in the gym and what I do not need to be doing in the gym. Because I told you, I think that evening, like I felt like I lost years off of my life that day. Like legit, like just the way I felt throughout the day. I had like this thing in my chest and I felt foggy and like I just wasn't as productive that day. So that made me like, we know that, right? Like we know, doing pain work isn't good, isn't healthy, but I hadn't done that type of work in so long where I kind of became numb to what it felt like to just to have it in my face and to like feel the effects for the rest of the day. I was like, this is just stupid. This is really, really stupid. So I think it just reaffirmed the idea that was already baked inside of my mind of like, yeah, no one needs to do this work unless they're getting paid for it. That's it. Like not even the old me of like, I want to do this to win. It's like, you better be getting paid for this, right? Because it's making you less healthy. If you're a male, it's taking testosterone away from you. It's likely lowering the amount of years that you're going to live. So it's like, you better be getting something out of this. And if it's just like happiness, like maybe that's cool for some people. But in my mind, it's like, you better be making a living doing this thing. This thing better be paying you. You better not just be doing this for fun.
Totally. I mean, I felt like on the floor, I was thinking to myself about all the things I wasn't going to do at the level I wanted to do them throughout that day and for probably the couple days after because of doing that, right? Like it just takes away from so many other areas, your ability to be sharp at work. I wanted to go to jiu-jitsu that evening and I had a terrible time there because I felt so rubbish from that morning. I think I said to you, like, it feels like this day has been going on forever when I saw you that evening.
Yeah.
Like just weird, like time warp, brain foggy kind of day, digestion, like just a little bit off. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever do that again.
I don't think I will either.